The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am back. You are comfortably zoned with me, the Zig Zag Man in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco, across the moat from Oakland, in the northern part of a pretty terrific state, if I do say so myself. And my fellow Alamedan, who has become a fixture on the network, I love having him, is here, and he can attest to it all. Summer day, Jerry Feitelberg, Ralph Tycho host. Take it away, my friend Jerry. What's going on?
Well, thank you, Ralph. It's always a pleasure to be on the podcast with you, and thank you for having me. And, you know, here we are in Northern California. It's a gorgeous day. It's probably perfect weather up in Alameda today. I think Alameda has the best weather in Northern California because it doesn't get the fog from San Francisco, and it always has the sunshine, and it's a little warmer and a little more pleasant. But that's something that you and I share, and we live in that very lovely town in Northern California. Now,
absolutely, Jerry, it would make it really lovely on the summer day to hear once and for all some positivity. I shared an article with you, or you with me, on the A's situation. Fans from both Oakland and San Francisco have taken to trying to save the A's because they've come to realize that having two teams, a rivalry, if you will, in the same area, and it's great TV market, tremendous wealth, it can be done. Is there any hope? What would the probability of them going to Vegas of late? Is there anything I can do to find hope? Because I could practically walk, and sometimes do, to the ballpark from where I live. It's a long walk, but you know what I'm saying? I would hate to lose them. And I'm withholding the mourning process because I've been through it so many times. The Giants threatened to leave 2 or 3 times. The A's have threatened to leave. The Giants threatened to leave New York. Then they did. Then they went to Minneapolis, then San Francisco. You follow me? I'm all mourned out about baseball teams leaving, and now I'm mourned out because of the kids involved that suffer. Kids and old folks like us who have this as our passion, who suffer when a team leaves. All the Hazarai that we brought over the years, all the worshiping and the rooting we did, that's how the franchise rewards us. Should there be eminent domain? Why don't you touch on that for a second? What would that involve?
Well, that's an interesting concept. I don't think anyone has brought that up. Usually, in the cases of eminent domain, the city or the county or the state will take property from an individual in order to build a road or something like that, something that would be in the public interest, and then they would have to pay the owner of the property, a fair market value for the property. I haven't heard anyone talk about that, and it's an interesting concept. And maybe we could send a letter over to the mayor, that they could that they could use eminent domain to take the property from John Fisher. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's an interesting concept. What's interesting, and you brought it up, was the fact that the fans in San Francisco joined in with the A's on Tuesday night, and they had a stadium was sold out, over 40,000 people, and the entire stadium was chanting, "Sell the team." And in fact, the A's fans were on the first base side, and the chant actually started on the Giants side of "Sell the team." And the Bay Area, we've got almost 8 million people living in the Bay Area, and when you include the Sacramento market, which is probably another 1.5 million people, is a tremendous market here in Northern California, way superior to the Las Vegas market. Las Vegas, with all the suburbs and towns around, Las Vegas, like Summerlin and Henderson, there's only about 2 million people. And here in Northern California, we got close to 10 million people. That's a lot more households with TVs, a lot more households that will have the games broadcast into them, a lot more advertising money coming into them. And that's a very, very important thing to have, the TV revenue. Las Vegas is the 40th largest market, or smallest market, would be the smallest market in baseball, and being the 40th market. And the Bay Area is somewhere between the 6th and the 10th largest market in the country. And so there's a huge market here to be utilized to sell products and do that, and do whatever you have to do to bring in revenue for the team. Now, John Fisher, they had, when they went down to Las Vegas, and they got the legislature to approve $180 million from the state of Nevada, and then $120 million from Clark County. I think they got about $380 million from public money, public guarantees, to help with the building of the stadium. And right now they estimate the project to be about $1.5 billion. Now the A's had a rendering of the stadium that was to be built on the Tropicana site, and the Tropicana Hotel, which is owned by the Bally's Corporation, is a 36-acre parcel in Las Vegas at the corner of Tropicana Boulevard and Las Vegas Boulevard, which is really, if you've ever been to Las Vegas, on a Friday night you can't move. The traffic is backed up. And so now you're going to put 30,000 people into a stadium with no parking, very little parking in the area, and it's for 81 games. And they're going to have a retractable roof. The temperature in Las Vegas today is 114 degrees. And you can't play baseball at 114 degrees. The players will dehydrate. They'll pass out from heat exhaustion, heat stroke. Who knows? If they had to play in day game in Las Vegas, of course they'd have the air conditioning on. But even so, the people selling the Las Vegas project saying, well, the people in the casinos they can come from the Bellagio or whatever. It might be a half mile walk. Well, try and walk in at 114 degree heat. It will probably knock over a lot of elderly people. It's just too hot for them to move. So they got to figure something out to make it possible, because the A's are projecting, in order to pay the bonds that Clark County is going to issue, they'll have to sell out. They have to have 28,000 people, average 28,000 people per 81 games for 30 years to pay off the bonds.
Aren't they going to have a dome?
They have to have a dome.
That's part of it, right?
And there is no stadium, and there's no dome stadium in Major League Baseball sitting on 9 acres. They need at least 12 acres. Whether or not Bally's is going to give them the additional space, who knows?
Okay, just thought of another solution. You get trams from downtown to the game, and
they could have shuttles. That's a possibility.
All right. Anything could happen. What I want to know, we've had, and this is ongoing, you and I, 5 years now, talking about the possibilities. Remember, suffering the frustrations of first they build a team, then they tear it down. Then they build another team, then they tear it down. That goes back way further than 5 years. But you and I have been talking about what are the odds of the Oakland A's remaining the Oakland A's at this point, or is all this stay team stay type thing, is that just hyperbole, or is there a possibility it can happen? I mean, I don't believe in fairy tales, but I'll certainly take a miracle now and again. Chance of that?
Yeah, there is a possibility, but it's slim. My view is it's slim at this possibility. But as you know, they haven't put the shovels in the ground. And what's happening in Nevada, in Las Vegas, is that
the ballpark.
The teachers union is gathering signatures for a referendum to put the issue on a ballot. Should Clark County spend that kind of money, go sell bonds for $120 million when they can't even give the teachers a salary increase? So they have some issues that, you need teachers, you have to pay the teachers, and if you refuse to give them a raise, and then you're going to go out and spend $120 million for a private enterprise which is owned by a billionaire, you have to wonder, is this the right thing to do? We talked about the Giants. Remember, the Giants were threatening to leave San Francisco, and they wanted to go to San Jose. And Walter Haas, who was the owner of the A's in those days, back in the 80s, and his friend Bob Lurie was the owner of the Giants. The Giants wanted to move to San Jose. They were going to build a stadium down there, and they put the issue, and there was public money involved, and the people of San Jose, when they had the referendum, voted against spending the money. And that was when the Giants were all set and ready to go to St. Petersburg, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, and at the last minute, the Major League Baseball found owners led by Peter McGowan, and they purchased the Giants, and then the Giants made a commitment to build a new stadium in San Francisco, and they made it work. Apparently this time John Fisher doesn't want to sell, but he's looking for money, public money, to build this stadium, which is a projected cost of $1.5 billion. And with construction and overruns, it's not going to be $1.5 billion. It could be closer to $2 billion. And the money's got to come from somewhere. So what they have now is the people in Las Vegas and Clark County, a lot of them may not be willing to shell out the money for that. The other thing too that we have to consider is that the major league owners have to vote on the proposal, and the A's have to fill out a relocation request, and it's stating the reasons why they have to leave the Bay Area. They have to list all the reasons why they want to go, what the deficiencies are. And Rob Manfred has indicated that Major League Baseball will waive the $300 million relocation fee to go to Las Vegas. Now, some of the owners may say, well, that's not fair. If we had to move our team, we'd have to pay it. Why does this guy get a free pass? And the $300 million is divided up among the teams. So the owners also are considering the fact that if a team, they put a an expansion team in Las Vegas, there'd be a $2 billion expansion fee. And $2 billion is a lot more than the $300 million. So the owners may want an expansion team going into Las Vegas, not a relocation. And a lot of fans, a lot of owners might prefer coming to San Francisco Bay Area rather than taking the team to Las Vegas. I don't know how they're thinking. And a lot of owners are saying, well, if they can do this to the A's and force them to move and say that, make a decision on what site they should be on, and you're seeing some of it in some of the cities now. If you look at Milwaukee, Major League Baseball has said that the stadium up in Milwaukee, which is only 20 years old and is a dome stadium, is not up to stuff, and that they're going to have to start looking for a new stadium in Milwaukee.
Whoa.
And the owners saying, wait a minute, why can't we fix up the place? So those are some of the things that the owners are concerned with. They're going to have to vote on it. I just don't know. And we saw that we talked about the fan support when they had the All-Star game up in Seattle. There were A's fans up there, and they had the chance to sell the team. And I'm sure that Major League Baseball owners have heard that the fans in the Bay Area are very supportive of keeping the team in Oakland. And of course, the business model, you brought up the business model, where it's boom or bust. Either you're very good and when they get good and you have to pay the players, they sell them off and then they go to rebuild the team. Well, what was particularly galling for the fans last year was the fact that in 2021, the team had a good year. I don't remember if they made the playoffs, but in 2018 and 2019, they won 97 games each year, which is very, very good. And unfortunately they didn't advance in the playoffs, but it could have gone the other way. But nonetheless, when 2021 after the season, and they had players like Matt Chapman and Matt Olson who were due for big contracts, they sold them. They traded them to Chapman to Toronto, Olson to Atlanta. Olson is having a banger year in Atlanta. Chapman had a great first half with the Blue Jays. They traded Chris Bassett to the Mets. They traded Sean Manaea away. They traded Frankie Montas away. They traded all these players that were either in arbitration or about to become a free agent, and they wanted to keep the payroll down. And they have the lowest payroll in baseball, but it's showing. Today, for example, when I wrote an A's preview of the series with the Rockies, the A's have the worst team batting average in Major League Baseball. As a team, they're hitting .221. The other day in the lineup, they didn't have a player. They had maybe one or two players barely over .250. So they don't hit. They have the worst team ERA in Major League Baseball, almost 6 runs a game. And they're the second worst fielding team in baseball, 29th in baseball. So you put all that together, and they come up with a record of 28 wins and 76 losses at this point in time. So what can I tell you? They played 104 games. They have a .269 winning percentage. That projects out to 44 wins for the year and 118 losses, which is terrible. Absolutely terrible. And they
keep the Mets record intact.
Yeah.
1962.
But it's hard for the fans to swallow. And what really irritated the fans last year is that they traded the players, and then they doubled the prices on the sale on the tickets. They took away all the players, and they made it very costly to see the worst team in baseball. So, that's not a great public relations move on part of the team. Don't blame the fans.
Not at all. Where are they going to play? Either way, they move, they stay. They've got to find a place to play. because their lease expires.
That's right. Their lease expires after next year. They could negotiate a lease for the 3 years that they're building the stadium in Oakland. They could stay here in Oakland, but they're not going to do it. And we've discussed this before, and I've said it many times, and many of the people that I know in the media, we have all said we all felt that the best place to build a stadium was at the current location. They could have built a stadium adjacent to the park.
Infrastructure's there. It's easy in, easy out.
Yeah, exactly.
The BART is right there, Bay Area Transit. So, what can I tell you? Now, what's your prediction? Is there a chance?
There is a chance. I'm going to say it's a slim chance, maybe 10% happening at the present time. But there's a saying in baseball, you never know. You just never know what's going to happen. And these guys that have been running the A's since John Fisher took over in 2005, he came in saying he wanted to move the team. He brought in a developer, Lou Wolf, who had maybe a 10% interest of the team. And Lou Wolf was the point man to find the location and do the development. Well, he wanted to go to San Jose, and that was a problem because the Giants had territorial rights to San Jose. And probably if they sweetened up the deal and said, okay, we'll give you $100 million for the rights, the Giants might have sold it to them. And they would, of course, would have had to contend with the fact that the Giants believe it's San Jose and the peninsula is their territory, and a lot of their fans come from there. And that may be true, but the teams don't play on the same day. Usually when the Giants are at home, the A's are away, and vice versa. So they're not really competing with each other for the fans. And there would have been, and with the development of Silicon Valley and the development of San Jose as a city, there's over 1 million people that live in the city of San Jose, and all the tech suburbs, like Sunnyvale and Mountain View and what have you, Santa Clara. There are a lot of people and plus people from the East Bay that would come down to see the A's. So it could have worked out for Oakland, but the Giants refused. There were lawsuits, and they couldn't. The people of San Jose filed a lawsuit against baseball, and because of the antitrust exemption that baseball has, the court ruled that in favor of the Giants, and said that it would take an act of Congress in order to change the antitrust exemption. And well, no one's going to do that, so that's what happened. So frustrated, Lou Wolf looked at the city of Fremont and found a location. They were going to call it Cisco Field, and that never failed to materialize. And then they went over to Laney College a few years later, and they were negotiating to build a stadium on the Laney College premises, but they didn't negotiate with the top man. Whoever they negotiated didn't have the authority to negotiate with the A's. And when the chancellor of Laney College said no deal, the A's had egg on their face, and that was another disaster. And you start to think that these guys really don't know what they're doing. And of course, then came the Howard Terminal project, and that took a while, and there was legal challenges, and they probably had to do a massive EIR, environmental impact report. They had to deal with the BCDC Commission. They had lawsuits from the potential lawsuits from the maritime people, but they survived all that. And then they were claiming that the city of Oakland wouldn't do anything, and the city finally came up and they got commitments for $400 million in grants, and they got another $100 million coming. They're working on. That's $500 million for infrastructure. The city of Oakland was ready to put shovels in the ground. They were ready to do it. And now, 2 days before They were going to get the final okay from the city. The A said, nope, we're cutting off the negotiations. We're going to Las Vegas. We have a binding deal for 49 acres. A week later, that deal was done. And then they said, we got this deal with Bally for 9 acres, rent-free, and we're going to build a stadium there. Well, they haven't hired an architect yet. They have 2 firms competing to build the stadium. One of the firms is the firm that built Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, where the Raiders play, and another firm is, I believe, did the Howard Terminal architecture for that. But I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure of that. But they are familiar with building stadiums, and they're going to have. But it takes time to get those, to get the architectural designs and bids in, and so that who knows how long that's going to take. So we'll see what happens. So that's where we are. There's a lot going on, and of course with Fisher and Cavill, who knows? Who knows what's going on?
Well, who is the one person that you would say that messed up the negotiations on the part of the A's? Was it Cavill?
I really don't know. It could have been Cavill. He works for Fisher. He's the president of the A's. He was involved with the stadium down in San Jose, the soccer stadium. But I really don't know what his involvement in it, how much authority he has, if John Fisher is the ultimate authority. And John Fisher is a mystery man. I just know that he's the son of the founder of the Gap. Don Fisher was his father. His family is extremely wealthy, and they own the Gap and Banana Republic and Old Navy stores.
Well, but it's interesting. It wasn't his earnings; it was his inheritance that did it. So, we can't say, well, here's a skilled businessman. He must know what he's doing. No, he may not be. He may be the opposite of that.
We just don't know. I've never heard a word from him. I've never seen him in all the years that I've been involved with the A's. I've never seen him at the ballpark. So who knows? He could be a good businessman. But I know they had a very ambitious project at Howard Terminal. They were going to build a ballpark village, and they were going to build 3,000 units of housing. They were going to put in office buildings. They were going to put in a 3,000 or 4,000 seat stadium theater. So they had plans for it, retail, commercial, and for whatever reason, it looks like they got cold feet. And maybe they felt the economy wasn't strong enough to build 3,000 units. And the other thing is that they wanted to build it all at once rather than build it in stages. Like a project this size, you can't do it all at once. It takes years to build it. But they could have built the baseball stadium, and that would have taken 3 years. And but it's not going to happen. It would have been great for Oakland, all the jobs, the construction workers, and of course when they finish up, the culinary workers, the electricians, the plumbers. It's huge. It would have been a huge project. And a huge
boom to the economy. That's what a lot of people don't realize. When you spend public money for a ballpark, you're going to get some money back in tax revenue. And it's not an expenditure necessarily. It can be a great investment. And you mentioned the Giants, their Exhibit A, what they did for that area, built it up, restaurants,
everything. If you remember years ago when I first moved to San Francisco, that area used to be an industrial area. There wasn't much there. There used to be a golf driving range. That's gone. The whole area has been revitalized. They put it. UC has built the Children's Hospital down in that area. The Warriors built their stadium down there in that area. They have so many apartment buildings, new homes in the area.
Say, condos up to kazoo. It's amazing. Now, from that, if you look at that, if I'm a city planner in bumfuck Egypt, I look at that and I say, hey, this makes sense. Look at what these people are doing. Why is it that cities are so resistant to help the ball clubs? This isn't the first time professional teams have gotten a snub in Oakland. So you got to blame them, blame the city and county as well. And maybe that's a problem, dealing with both the city and the county.
At the same time, you know, people say that Oakland lost the Warriors. That the Bay Area didn't lose the Warriors. They just moved across the bay to a new home. And when the team was sold to Joe Lacob and Peter Guber 10 or 12 years ago, they made it quite clear from the outset they were going to build a private stadium, and they built the stadium without a dime of public money. So you can't blame the city of Oakland. They had redone Oracle Arena, and Oracle Arena was a great facility for the Warriors. The opposing teams hated coming in here because the fans were so rabid in Oakland. So you can't really blame the city or city and county for that. Where they missed the ball and what they did wrong. Remember, the Raiders left to go to Los Angeles in the 80s, I think in 82, somewhere in there, about 40 years ago. Al Davis took the team down there. He was looking for a stadium in L.A., and that never worked out for him. They wanted to remodel the Los Angeles Coliseum, and that didn't work. And when the Raiders came, the Coliseum lost UCLA as a tenant. The UCLA moved over to the Rose Bowl for their games. And then, of course, Davis was looking for a site in L.A., and that couldn't happen. And then the people in Oakland got together, and they found a way to bring the Raiders back. The Raiders, you know, the original Oakland Coliseum for football only sat 51,000 people. And they built this monstrosity called Mount Davis to increase the seating to over 60,000. And of course they bungled that too because, you know, they wanted to sell personal seat licenses to finance it. And what they've done in many of the cities when they build a stadium, and the 49ers did this when they built Levi Stadiums, they sold personal seat licenses, but they were forever, as opposed to, and the Warriors did the same thing. You could buy a personal seat license at Chase Center. It was $30,000. You paid it out over 10 years. And at the end of 30 years, you got your money back. So that was a good deal. But in the personal seat license debacle in Oakland, the seat licenses were good for 10 years, and you had to renew them every 10 years. And people said that was unacceptable, and it didn't work. They sold some, and then people got frustrated or they got upset because people who bought seat licenses and were paying a lot more for the seat were sitting next to people who just bought a regular ticket. And so they felt that wasn't fair. So that didn't work out for the Raiders. And apparently the initial plan was to build the stadium for the Raiders on the existing property, but that never happened. That never came to fruition. And, you know, the Raiders, when they were great, they sold out for years. They always did well. And when they started losing, people aren't going to pay to see losing football. So they stopped coming. And the Raiders, as great as they were in the past, have not been. I can't remember the last time. I think the last time they were in a Super Bowl was over 20 years ago. So, and of course, in Las Vegas, it's a little bit different. It's a new stadium. They have a mediocre team, but because they're in Las Vegas, there are a lot of people from when the teams come in, because it's an event. A lot of people will fly out. For example, if Denver comes to play the Raiders in Las Vegas, they will have a lot of Bronco fans in town to see the Raiders play. So they sell out the stadium. But it was different. The Raiders, if they had a decent product on the field in Oakland, they had no trouble selling out. The A's, if they had a decent product like they did in the 80s, when they had that when Tony Lewis came, and then from they saw with the advent of players like Canseco, McGuire, Walt Weiss, they got Dennis Eckersley, Dave Stewart. They put together a championship team, and in one of the years, 89 or 90, they drew close to 3 million people, 2.9 million people. They could do it because the A's had a winning team. They were good for that amount of time. They packed the stadium. They made it a fun place to go. And what can I say? Those people know how to do it. The current ownership doesn't.
I think it's not just that they don't know how, they don't care to learn. They've had the team for 10 years. Ownership has turned over running the team, not just the A's, but other ownerships have turned it over to people who know how to run a team. And it's kind of sad.
It is sad. It is sad. But part of the problem that the A's have, and a lot of the I know they say the A's are a small market team, but they're really not. But a small market team like Kansas City, for example, Kansas City is having a season almost as bad as the A's. They're only one game. They've only won one more game than the A's this year, and they're in a small market team too. And they're in Kauffman Stadium, which is one of the reasons that Charlie Finley left Kansas City was because he wanted a new stadium there, and they had problems getting it. So he got baseball to agree to let them relocate to Oakland, and then the Kansas City got an expansion team. The A's left after '67, and 2 years later, the Kansas City Royals were born. And they built a beautiful stadium called Kauffman Stadium. Now, and I'm sure Major League Baseball wants the team closer to downtown these days. So there might be pressure on the Royals to build a stadium. Who knows if that's going to happen? So, and we mentioned Milwaukee, and they have a 20-year-old stadium. And the Braves in Atlanta, they moved from Fulton County Stadium. They moved to Turner Field. And they're only there 20 years, and now they have a new stadium, Truist Stadium.
Look at Texas, Arlington. They've had 2 or 3 stadiums.
Right. Exactly. And I think the current stadium has a retractable roof. Well, that was a major factor because it gets so hot down in Dallas at this time in the summertime. So the A's there's no question the A's as a team need a new stadium. The Oakland Coliseum, and I as much as the people call it a dump, I never minded going there. It was a baseball stadium, and we were going to see baseball being played. It was Major League Baseball. It wasn't minor league baseball. And, you go over there and you see people like Shohei Ohtani, you see Mike Trout, or Aaron Judge when the Yankees came. So it was a place to go to see Major League Baseball. And of course, within the league now, you see the stars from the National League coming in now. You see the Cubs come in. You see the Pirates come in, or the Reds, all the teams that you don't normally get to see. So it was good. I think it was great. So I never minded going to the Oakland Coliseum. Getting there was easy. Parking was good. And there are deficiencies at the stadium. The foul lines are too big. The fans are too far away from the stadium, from the field. Baseball's an intimate game. If you look at and you go to San Francisco, there's not a lot of foul territory in San Francisco. You go to Fenway Park, there's not a lot of foul territory in Fenway Park. So it's nicer to have the fans sitting closer to the players. And,
plus they took away the aesthetics by that monster, that Al Davis monster being built in the mid '90s, and you used to be able to see Berkeley and the hills, and now you see an old piece of concrete, and it's not what it was.
There's no question. I mean, the plumbing backs up. The plumbing's 60 years old. You have to redo the whole stadium. There's no question that they needed a new facility. So, for example, one of the things in Fenway Park that the players used to complain about was that the visitors' clubhouse was so small in Fenway Park. The players hated it. And the A's clubhouse, which I thought was okay, they moved into the former Raiders clubhouse. I was on a sort of different level in the under the stands at the Coliseum. Made it a little bit better for both the visiting teams took over the old Oakland players clubhouse, and the A's had the bigger one. But this just player comfort is important. Yes, these guys are making. Can you imagine making $750,000 a year as a 23-year-old player and as a rookie? That's unbelievable what they're getting paid. I remember,
or being a free agent and you're given a tour of Oakland Coliseum, and you say, "What's that smell?" Well, the plumbing backed up for the 30th time this year. So
it's going to be hard for the A's to get an expensive free agent. It's not going to happen. Their playbook is they want to bring up prospects and hope that they make it, and then get veterans that have been, mediocre players, who part-time players, utility players, who they think that if they get a chance to play, will produce. And that's why they get guys like Tony Kemp, Aledmus Diaz, people like that, Seth Brown, guys that aren't going to play regularly on a team, but when they come to the A's, they're going to play every day. And the players hope that if they perform, when their contract comes due, they'll get a big contract somewhere else. They're not going to play for the A's. But for a player, it gives them a chance to play. So a lot of players say, okay, I'll play for the A's. It's not a problem.
I don't blame the player for getting what he can any way that he can. I blame the fan who keeps putting up with it year after year after year. The fans need to really rebel. Strike.
Well, they did. They did. The fans voted with their feet when the team traded the players and raised the prices. They said that is inappropriate. Stop screwing us. We want to have a winning team, and they did what they did.
Okay, it's depressing, but it's all part of the world. If you think that's depressing, we'll talk about Trump next time. How about that?
It's my understanding today that Trump's lawyers met with Special Prosecutor Jack Smith, and Jack Smith informed that indictments are coming. And the last time he did that, 4 days in the Mar-a-Lago case, 4 days after he met with the Trump lawyers in that case, 4 days later, the indictments came down. Whether or not it happens this time, we have to wait and see. But they're coming. It's going to happen.
I hope so. I just hope that this time, when the indictments come, they don't coincide with Trump raising a whole bunch of bucks. That's infuriating. What is wrong with you people out there who just think that that losing your democracy, our democracy, would be a good thing? How do they justify that in their own minds?
I have no idea. And if you're looking to see what would happen when the threat of democracy being eliminated, look no further than Israel, because Israel is going through that now because they don't have a constitution. They have a legislative branch and they have an executive branch. The legislative is the Knesset and the executive is the prime minister. And the Supreme Court is the only check and balance on what they do. And by reducing the power that the Supreme Court has, eliminates the check and balances on what the Prime Minister currently, Bibi Netanyahu, can do. And the people are very, very worried, and they're demonstrating and offer a lot of people in the reserve offices are very upset. They're threatening not to, do what they have traditionally done, be ready to be called up in an emergency. And they have to do something to figure it out because the religious right wants to run the country. And the religious right, those people don't serve in the military and they don't work. So, they got serious problems and and their democracy is being threatened right now. And so let's not have that happen here in the United States.
Okay. Try not to, my friend Jerry. Be well, be healthy. Regards to Isla, and we'll catch you next time.
Well, yeah, Isla's going to have eyelid surgery on Tuesday. It's like a cosmetic thing. When her eyelids they're either drooping or whatever, and it's an outpatient surgery, so she won't be in the hospital overnight. And she'll be black and blue. Both eyes will be black and blue. And I told her to wear sunglasses if we have to see anybody, and we do. So, but other than that, I was doing fine. I'm doing fine, and we have to get our little group together with Eric Gray and George Spanos, and maybe Wynn Derman. How about lunch on the golf course?
I would enjoy that immensely.
Yeah, I think we can. I got a date in August in mind. I'll send out I think Eric is in England right now.
Ah, well, that sounds jolly good.
Jolly good.
All right. Be well, my friend. We'll talk soon. Okay. Thank you for listening, everybody. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Jerry Feitelberg is the ongoing guest. I'm Ralph Tycho, and they call me the weak link of it all. Adios, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Happy trails, too.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.